Hey boys and girls, welcome to a new video. It's been a little bit of a break. I've been very busy. My business has taken up a lot of my time, and if you remember in the previous video, I had a Z3, so I've got busy. I've broke that. I've got stuff absolutely everywhere. So I've not had much time for the coupe, but it's now Saturday and we are going to make some progress. So I've just bolted on the aircon rads. That was nice and easy, but I seem to have misplaced these bolts, which is not ideal, but I'm sure I'll have some somewhere, so we can come back to that. But she's on and secure for now. So today's job, I'm going to do this epoxy brake line, and then yeah, maybe drop her down, move her backwards and forwards and drive her. So yeah, very exciting. Obviously we've still got the seal to sort out, but that's not a job I'm looking forward to. I've got lots of stuff on the go at the moment, so it's taking a bit of a back burner. I've got more repairs to do to the daily as well, the trusty 7 series, so that's going to keep me busy. So yeah, just struggling for time at the moment, but anyway, we'll get set up and we'll smash out this brake line. Right, so what we want to replace, these flexies are pretty shot, and I snapped the end off this one in a huff. Anyway, this brake line here is looking pretty thin, the hard line, so I'm just going to replace it. It's not worth taking any risks on brakes, so get that done. And then also I've just noticed the trap rod there is split. So I'll probably replace them. We're going to replace the whole rack anyway. So what I've got, I managed to buy a whole load of parts, and in there is a purple tag E36 rack, so we're probably going to chuck that on. It's got lovely good, or fairly new outers and inners, but what we will probably get rid of is, rather than use this, which is still an upgrade over the stock rack, we'll put a Z3 rack in there. So I've got a couple of those stashed away, so that'll be what goes on. And then for the brake hoses, obviously we're going to run new copper line, and then the flexies, I'll stick a set of my Goodrich lines on there, so I'll keep those in stock. If anyone needs a set, just hit me up. Right, let's see if we can get this apart. Looking at the actual hard line, it's not that bad. Obviously it's lost its coating, it's started to corrode slightly, but it doesn't look too bad. So anyway, if I can free these apart, I might try and wire wheel it, see how it cleans up. But yeah, let's see if that comes apart. Probably won't, but let's try it. When you take these off, don't try and undo brake lines with anything but proper brake spanners, because you'll just round them. Tried it in the past, so always have a good set of brake spanners, because normal spanners just ruin the union, so proper spanners is a must. Right, that was tricky. So the 11mm is too rusty really to get off with the 11mm. It just sort of slipped. So rather than destroying it, trusty set of mollies straight on there, and she come undone. So thankfully we can get that off without destroying it. Still haven't decided if I'm going to save it or replace it yet, but at least I haven't got to fire the grinder up and make a mess. So Well, that's a bit of a result. I wasn't expecting that to come apart, so. Ooh. So there's the old rotten. There's the old rotten end. So that's definitely kaput. Also, it's not even like rubber anymore. It's gone. It's so hard. It's almost like plasticky. So obviously they should be lovely and floppy and rubbery. So that is ready for the bin. It's just a case of, can we clean that up enough to. There's so much mud on this car. Can we clean it up enough? It doesn't actually look that like it's thinned or it's pitted. It's only slightly pitted. Usually, I mean, you'd probably get an advisory for that on an MOT test, but it's not thinned. Usually when they're like ready to like be replaced, this would be really thinned and it'll be obvious. That looks pretty reasonable to me, so I might wire wheel it and just see what's left of it and then make a decision there. Obviously this union isn't ideal because the heads are a little bit mashed, but I'll be able to do it up tight enough that it will seal. So I don't want to replace the line if I can avoid it, because it goes under the ABS unit, this one. So although it's the one closest to the ABS unit, so in theory the easiest one, it's a bit of a bugger because it routes in through here and then goes under the ABS pump. The line comes up, it's this one here through the chassis, and it basically comes under the ABS pump, and it's one of these, I can't remember which one. I think it's the middle one from memory. But yeah, to get that out is a nightmare, because it's like you've basically got to lift the ABS pump up, which is alright, it's only like one bolt, but then you've got to disturb all the other lines, and just sometimes that's a bit of a can of worms. I did it last year on another car, and I kind of wish I hadn't. I just left it alone unless it absolutely needed it. And this one, I could probably leave that and not give myself a couple of hours of headache. If I can wire wheel that and paint it, then I might do that. So I'll get on with that, see how it comes out, and then pick the camera up once I've had another look. Right, so I tried to save this old line. Obviously this union's a bit chewed up. Not too bad, but I tried to save it by basically cutting it, and I was going to put a join on this straight, but my handheld bender doesn't seem to like this steel. Obviously it's hard, so I've just removed the whole thing, started making a replacement. So this is the ABS pump side. To get it out, it's not too bad. There's a 13mm on the back down here, so just pop that off and then lift it up, I don't know, half an inch or so, and that's giving me a bit of clearance, and then just feed the line through. So it's got quite a few twists and turns on it, so not the easiest line in the world to run, even though it's literally only like 2 foot long. It's a tricky one because it goes under the ABS pump. But anyway, so what I've done is put the bends on the ABS pump side, reuse the original union on it because it's quite a big fitting, which I haven't got any new ones, but it's in good nick. So we're just going to feed that through the firewall, or the inner chassis leg I should say, and then we'll do the final bends on this piece and the final flare once it's in position. But yeah, that should tuck in lovely under there. Got the line routed now. So it's this middle one here. So we've got the line routed now. You can see that middle one routed quite nicely, pretty much as per all the OEM. I don't know how well you can see down there, but yeah, doesn't touch anything, doesn't rub. So ABS pump side is sorted. If you wanted to do an absolutely perfect job and put it back to absolutely original, I would lift or undo the ABS pump fully, lift it out, and then you could route the lines nicer. But the issue is then you haven't got the pump in place to sort of get the fitment right. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Anyway, that end's done. So next up, we're just routing it on the underside. So obviously it comes through here, it's going to run up here, and then it gets into this fitting on the body. What I'm doing is using one of these handheld tools. I originally saw this on M539 Restorations. He does lots of BMW restos and stuff like that, and is a genius. But this tool, I don't know if it's the same one he's got. I think his was more expensive. This one was like 20 quid on eBay, and it's really good for being able to finish brake lines in situ because it's really small and mobile. So it was like 20 quid. You get this tool here. Basically what you do is you've got these two grub screws which pull this together. So you've got this fitting that goes on the end. So that means you can get the position of the brake line right. So basically screw this in all the way in, and then you can push the brake light through so it touches this, and then you know the position is exactly right. Do these right up, and then obviously take this out, and then you've got this tool here, which is a 2-stage. You've got your, if I don't drop it, I think it says operation 1 and 2 on it. So this end goes in first. You've got this fancy paste, lube, whatever you want to call it. So a little bit of lube on the fitting. Wind that in. And then crank it up. And then finish off to complete the flare. I'm going to set you up and try and show you on camera, but yeah, it's pretty neat. It was like 20 quid. I've used the ones that are like, I've used big ones before that you like mount in a vise, and they're great, but they assume that you can make the line completely off the car, and sometimes, like this one's a tricky one because of the angles in it. You can't get all of the bends in without having the line in place because it's got to go through this tiny little bulkhead hole here. It goes back on itself. So most of the time the ones you put in the vise are superior because obviously you could do a better job rather than trying to fight on the car, but sometimes because of access you have to make them on the car. So this is the one I would recommend for 20 quid. You can get the ones in Halfords, I think they're like 15 quid, but they are shit. They're not up to the job. These do quite a nice job. So yeah, would recommend these. 20 quid on eBay. There we go, and we've got a nice clean flare on that, and that should seal up fine and fix our brake issues. For anyone who's doing a brake job, these little clips which go in the sit on the ledge here, these are still available from BMW, and they are something silly like 85p plus VAT each. So I think I've got a couple of them kicking around, I just need to find them, but yeah, you can replace these without too much drama. If you've ever got to cut these off because they seize, then obviously these tend to get chopped at the same time. So yeah, you can still get them from the dealer, super cheap. Right, just a quick recap. So, brake line's done, bled. I bled that front line as well, just because I had the pressure bleeder out, so it made sense. So both lines are bled, this line's been replaced. I've just chucked the nose cone on, and this front trim. So I've got to do some parts hunting now. There should be an airbox somewhere, so I need to find that. And get the headlights and stuff on. And that's all this complete. I've still got to do this epoxy accelerator cable. I've been really busy, as you've seen earlier in the video, so yeah, hopefully we'll get this done soon. Been dragging on a bit now. I really don't want to weld that seal, but we've got to get it done. Anyway, we've added some more lighting, so we can see what we're doing in there. This end of the unit's lovely, but the far end I need to sort out. It's still a bit dark down there, so get some more lights up here. And yeah, we're flying. But yeah, so progress on this. That's in. Brake line's done. Nose cone's on. More stuff is back together. So just ironing out a few more niggly bits and pieces. Just try and get this done. Hopefully I'll have a good push on it over Christmas. I was thinking I'd get done quicker than what I had, but business work, actual work that pays my bills, unfortunately takes precedent over YouTube, because YouTube doesn't pay me any money, and probably won't for a long time, if ever. So but yeah, anyway, that's not why we do it. We do it because we enjoy it, but actual work is far more important, because that pays the bills. So this stuff and this car is kind of a bit of a fun, just a bit of a piss about, really. So but yeah, we'll have a good run at it. Let me know if you want to see me weld the seal. It's not particularly exciting watching that, so I might do a video of me cutting out the rot and just show you briefly what I'm doing, but I'm not sure I'm going to bore you with loads of footage of cutting up metal and welding the seal back on, because it's not particularly exciting. But yeah, let me know if you're interested, if you want to see that. We've got a few more niggles that I've discovered. One is the locks. If you remember in a previous video, the locks are terrible. Someone's replaced, I figured it out, there seems to be an aftermarket alarm, which is fine, but someone seems to have replaced all of the locks except the ignition barrel, which wouldn't be a big deal, but when I got the car I didn't get any spare keys. I only got this one ignition key, so I can't manually unlock the car. So what I'm thinking is to change the whole lock set so that all the locks match, and then if the alarm fails I can still at least get in the car, because at the moment, if the battery goes dead and all the windows and doors are locked, I have no way of getting into it, which isn't ideal. So yeah, right, next job. I forgot to pick up the camera, but anyway, we're halfway through it. So replace this accelerator cable, because the original one has broken, so that's not up to much anymore, so that's going in the bin. So I've already connected it up to the throttle body, so that's sorted. We just need to disconnect the old one from the bulkhead. I've disconnected the lower trim panel. It goes under the dash, and you've got, oh, there's my car, 3 bolts, or Phillips screws I should say. One here, and then one up here, and then that comes off in one piece. You do have to disconnect your gong if you've got a 18 button OBC, and then underneath we've got our accelerator cable. So we want to disconnect this grommet, or pull this grommet through, and then we can release it from the pedal, and then we can press the plastic tabs on the bulkhead fitting and it should pull through. Don't know how good of a job I'll do with recording this, but we'll try. So ideally you don't want to damage this grommet, mainly because I haven't got another, so, and I'm sure if you've got to change your accelerator cable you'll be in the same position. So try and tease that out without nicking it or causing too much damage to it. There we go. Oh, nearly. So I just sort of got the grommet halfway through and then use the cable to pull the rest of it. Alright, so we want to keep the grommet, or the bung, whatever you want to call it. So that's in good usable condition. Right, and then the cable's free. And then we've got 2 tabs on the cable. Hopefully you can see out there where the cable goes. And basically, to get that out, there's a plastic fitting, like that. Oh, it turns out I do have a spare grommet, that's the result. So yeah, it goes into the bulkhead, must be that way round. So yeah, you can see there's 2 little tabs there, so you just got to squeeze those together and then it should pull through. Right, it turns out the crappy little screw jar wasn't up to the job, so got the trusty pry bar on it. And hopefully there we go, she's out. So all I did on that was just pried on the, or pressed on the top, didn't even touch the bottom. And then it came through. So there's our old one tangled in the fan. That sounds rubbish. And then our good used one. Touch that down into there. Make sure we get the right orientation. And there we go, I had a little click once it's in place. So that's done. Obviously all of this gets routed on the loom. Okay, and then just got to hook her up to the pedal, which should be fairly straightforward. See, that's now, that now works lovely on the throttle. I'm tempted to actually disconnect it on the throttle side to make getting it through a bit easier, otherwise I'm fighting against it. So yeah, just to remove the tension off it, probably should have thought ahead before doing this. I don't know if I can just take some of the tension off that end. Right, that should be all the tension off the throttle body side. It should make just getting this side back in just a little bit easier. I don't know how much that's helped, but anything's a bonus. Get it in place. There we go. Just make sure it's all seated nicely. Gosh, wasn't too bad. So it's all through, grommet's in place. Also I need to adjust the throttle body. Make sure that it's not open at idle, which I think I'm going to have to take the intake boot off to be able to see that. If we whip that off. Right, there we go. So at the moment we've got wide open throttle. Obviously up with the engine off, this should be closed. The idle control valve controls the idle speed and airflow, so hopefully we wind this shut. There's enough adjustment on that, seems to be going on and on. some reason it seems like there's not enough adjustment on that cable. The only thing is that it looks like that end has popped off at some point and been re-crimped further along. So I'm wondering if I should unpinch it and pinch it further towards the end, because I'm maxed out on the adjustment and the idle control valve isn't fully the throttle body isn't fully shut. So I think let's give that a little tweak and see if we can free up some more slack on the cable, because we want that fully closed and it's not at the moment. That's how that's looking at the moment. So I'm hoping if I can just shimmy it along half an inch or so and clamp it back down, we should be good. So I've re-crimped it further along. Hopefully I haven't gone too far, because obviously there's a window of adjustment in this. So let's see how we've done. Hopefully it's right, otherwise it will take apart again. And then we want to wind that. Sweet, right, that seems to have done the trick. So basically, to adjust this, or to set it right, you want to wind it in till the throttle body seats and stops moving, and then just back out a smidge so it's under complete tension. So if you look in there, that's winding it anti-clockwise. You can see it just starts to open up a gap. So we want to wind that in until it stops moving, which is there, and then just catch that sweet spot, spot on. So now that's happy. The other thing you just want to be careful of is just making sure, if you fit like an M15 or anything like that, that none of this is catching on the, like your idle control valve, none of that's catching on this linkage, because I've had it before where they bind up. If a hose is touching them or something like that, that hose needs replacing, so we'll be back in here soon anyway. I've ordered them from BMW. That needs replacing, and the intake boot needs replacing, because that is split as well. So that won't do us any favours for air leaks and stuff. And then you've got this, make sure you've got this little OEM clip up here, which routes or helps guide your accelerator cable nicely. So we'll just pop that on there like so, and then that should sort of keep that. You don't want this to bind up or anything, otherwise your throttle can stick open. But yeah, throttle cable done, and then we can just go and check. Lovely and snappy, which is what we want. So I'll say that's a job done. One more job to go, which is the O2 sensor on the exhaust manifold. It's throwing a code. When I ran the engine up, it's throwing a code to say O2 sensor. Now if it was an air leak, you would usually see it throw both O2 sensor codes, but this was just the rear bank, I think. So I'm going to show you that, and then change the O2 sensor, and then she's running sweet at that point. It runs pretty good already, but obviously if it's got a bad O2, then it's not going to be completely happy, so we need to get that sorted. I've just chucked that back together. So I'm going to show you now how to code read on one of these M52s. Sorry, how to code read on any like facelift E36, because although they are technically OBD1, because a normal snap-on diagnostic won't talk to them or whatever, if you buy the right tool, you can get one from China. You can spend like 40 quid on eBay, and it will allow you to talk to the ECU and get live data and stuff. So basically what you've got to buy is one of these. It's called a C110 Plus scanner. It works on most of these old BMWs. Anything pre-1995 it's no good for. So like any basically with an M50 in or an M42 or an M60, then it's no good. But if you've got M43, M44, M52, M62, anything that or newer, it's great. So it works on like 1995 onwards, E36s, E46, E90, and it's cheap. Okay, it's not as good as like a full-blown diagnostic machine. It has its limitations, but for cheap, it's perfect for these cars. So to talk to it, obviously it's still got an OBD2 port, which E36 doesn't have. But when you buy one of these, you can buy them separately or with 20-pin adapter. So super simple on the 36. Whip that off. Plug our diagnostic port in. Notice it's got a funny shaped cut out on the middle. So there's an orientation. Make sure that's pushed in. And then hook up the other end. That just pushes together. You know you push that in far enough because it will power on. Right. Before we go any further, the car needs to have its ignition on. Don't start it, just ignition on. So if you're going to diagnose fault codes, what I would do is go into, click OK, diagnose, 3 series, E36, driver, DME, and let it read. Sometimes it can take like a minute or so, depends on the car. Usually E36 are pretty quick. Hit OK again on that screen, and then read trouble code, and it will show you what it's got stored. So tank ventilation, that's to do with the charcoal canister, because the tab is broken on it, so I've left it unplugged, otherwise it clicks. But what we're looking at is this top one, output stage for oxygen sensor heater. Basically that's our O2 sensor. Sensor number 2, which is cylinders 4 to 6. So these run cylinder 1 at the front, cylinder 6 at the back. So what that's telling us is our O2 sensor on the rear bank, because on these the manifolds are split, 1 and 2. The O2 sensor on the back manifold is no good. So I have another used one, which I have been patiently storing because I figured it would probably need it. So there's our good used O2 sensor. This came from a later M52 B28 TUB engine, so twin Vanos, but I'm pretty certain the O2 sensors are the same, but we'll see when we pull it out. I might be wrong, I might plug it in, it might not be happy, so we'll see what it does. But this is the only spare one I've got at the moment, and they're quite expensive to buy new, so I'm going to try this one and see what it does. It's probably different, but it might work. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll get that whipped off. So to take that off, obviously we'll go underneath, undo the bolt on the manifold. I think off the top of my head it's like a 19mm or 21mm, might be bigger. And they route on the back of the block and go in here. Obviously in my earlier videos you saw me install them. I don't know if there's a way of testing the resistance in these. There might be, not sure. If someone knows how to, let me know. But I went for the old-fashioned method, which is plug it in and see if it throws a code, and if it doesn't, happy days. That's the method I've relied on. So anyway, let's get that chucked in and then see if we can clear this code. So what I'll do now is I'll clear that code. Obviously there won't be any code stored now because I'm not running the car. Oh, it is stored. Now, anyway, I need to run the car with the new one in, so we'll run that and see what happens. Well, that's our new one. I've just undone the old one from the manifold. That is a 22mm spanner job. The next up, the O2 sensor plugs, where it connects the engine loom, is under here. So pop those off. Flathead screwdriver to Get those out. Two of those, and then you should have two 10mm lurking under there. Number one. Number two. And that just lifts up. And then that reveals our two O2 sensor bungs. I can't remember which is bank 1 and bank 2. I can't remember if it's as simple as that's bank 1 and that's bank 2, but we'll see which O2 sensor is loose, I guess, and then go from there. Obviously they're all routed on the back of the rocker cover, so we'll have to put that back in place once we put the new one in. As I thought, so the bank 4 to 6, or bank 2 cylinders 4 to 6 is the front one. So that gets real, that can be a little bit confusing, unless I've muddled them up when I put them back together, but I don't know. Right, so that just pulls out and then it pulls apart. So that's what we think is the bad one. Don't know if that's going to work actually, because the M52 twin Vanos engine looks like it's got a slightly different O2 sensor, and space might be an issue because there's not a lot of space in there anyway. It's the same plugs on that end. Well, we'll chuck it in there and try. It's no harm in trying. See if it fixes our problem or not. I wonder if they're the same length. They should be the same length. Okay, the leads are the same length, so anyway, let's plug it in and see what it does. I'm not going to route it properly in case it's no good. We'll chuck that down there, plug it in this end. Doesn't seem to fit in there at all. Nightmare. Ah, that's a pain. Well, I guess that tells us all we need to know. O2 sensor off a TUB engine doesn't work, even though they're both M52s. It's going so well. Right, so I need to source a good used or buy a brand new one of these. So I'll get onto the hunt and see what I can find. Never ends. I've also discovered, whilst I was underneath it just then, the rad seems to be leaking. There's a bit of a wet spot on the floor there. So it seems like this rad, which is in good nick and looks quite shiny and new, is no good. So I'll add that to the list of things that needs replacing. So do you know what, this car, I've said it in previous videos, I cannot believe how many small things this car keeps throwing up that it needs. Silly stuff like needing the accelerator cable, the radiator. Obviously there's other stuff along the way that, you know, you saw in the previous video. I'm going to change all the lock sets so I can still get in the car, because obviously at the moment the key fob works great and it unlocks it, but my key only works in the ignition. It doesn't work in the doors or the boot. So if the key fob or the alarm dies, and I'm not in the car, I have no way of getting back in it unless I break windows and stuff like that. So I'm going to change the full lock set, so it's got a matching set of locks on it, because obviously I don't want to be caught stranded somewhere. But honestly, this car, such a pain in the ass. I really cannot believe how challenging it's been, and I really didn't think that it was going to be this involved when I first took it on. Obviously I knew the engine might have been buggered and it needed a bit of welding, but yeah, all the little jobs in between have just got so out of hand. Yeah, it's just mad. So if you were trying to do this on a budget, you'd have blown the budget well before now. But obviously, like I said to you before, I've got plenty of parts and bits and pieces, so that's helped. But I mean, if I didn't have a spare accelerator cable, it would have been 60 quid from the main dealer, maybe more. The O2 sensor, I don't know how much that'll be. I'll have a look and let you know. I imagine that for a genuine one's probably going to be 100 quid, something like that. So, and it's all silly shit that you don't sort of take into account. So when you're buying a project car and you think, oh, it just needs a new engine, that's fine there, this much. No, I've probably spent just as much on silly little bits and pieces. And at the end of it, I've still not really modified the car massively, not done anything to brake, suspension. Just gets out of hand so quickly. So these aren't cheap cars anymore. This shit's got expensive real quick. Anyway, I think that's enough for today's video. The next job is, let's get that seal cut apart. So I'm probably going to start filming the next video straight away. So I want to get that apart and see exactly what it needs. But yeah, we'll see you in the next video. So next video, get some welding done on it. And I need to get that O2 sensor ordered. And then, yeah, so making progress. But yeah, cheers for watching. I'll try and keep the content coming a bit faster. It's taken me a while to get this video out. But yeah, cheers for watching. I'll see you in the next one.